Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my movie vlog. My name is John Campea, and this is a special companion video that I do most every day. So you see, on the John Campea Show in the mornings and on open mic in the afternoons, I take live questions, but sometimes I run out of time to get to all of them. So what I do is I take all those questions, because I want you guys to know if you send in a question, it will get answered, just maybe not on that show live. And I take those questions that didn't get answered, and I do them on this companion video. So we got a bunch of questions from yesterday's open mic and this morning's John Campea Show to get caught up on, so let's dive right into it. And the first question today we're going to address comes to us from Adam K., who writes, "What's WKabi's fate in Black Panther? Are he and Okoye done?" Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, they're done. And I'm guessing the way they kind of do things in Wakanda, I'm guessing traitors to the throne are probably put to death. Because here's the thing. WKabi wasn't a traitor. And again, if you haven't seen Black Panther, this will be considered a spoiler, so you've been warned, okay? When WKabi was not a traitor was when Killmonger showed up, made a claim to the throne, he beat T'Challa in single combat, at least they thought he won the challenge, and he was king. Even though T'Challa was still alive, he wasn't really king, but everybody thought he was king. So WKabi, following the orders of Killmonger at that point, he's not a traitor. However, once T'Challa revealed himself to still be alive, meaning that Killmonger never won the challenge, thus Killmonger was not king, T'Challa was still king, WKabi made the decision to follow Killmonger's orders and go and attack T'Challa and try to kill T'Challa. When that happened, WKabi became a traitor to the throne. He became a traitor to Wakanda. And considering Okoye's entire meaning of her life is protecting the throne, and WKabi betrayed that, he's done. So, number one, him and Okoye are definitely done. Number two, he is probably dead. Watching Black Panther and understanding how they handle justice in Wakanda, WKabi is probably dead. That's just my guess at this point. Maybe he's still alive and in a prison, but he's probably dead. All right, Tinosvaldo writes, "You have sequels and prequels. What do you call a movie taking place during another movie, like 300 Rise of an Empire takes place while King Leonidas fights at the Thermoplae?" And I know I'm mispronouncing that. I'd still call it a sequel. It's the next film. It's the next thing. So I would still say anything that comes after one movie and another movie is a sequel, even if it happens roughly at the same time. But this also happens after the events of King Leonidas at the same time. So this might not be the best example. I personally would still call it a sequel. Even if it was happening at the exact same time, that's just kind of the best word for it. You can say that it runs concurrently with the previous film, but it's still a sequel. If it's a movie that is like the events leading up to a movie, then we call that a prequel. Otherwise, I still call it a sequel. And maybe that's right or wrong. I'm not really sure, but that's just how I can kind of handle calling it. All right, next one comes to us from Jordan Frye, who writes, "Mr.Sunday Movies made a video of the Christopher Robin trailer with Pooh speaking to Ewan McGregor with General Grevis' dialogue. It's hilarious." Mr.Sunday Movies does a lot of really hilarious stuff, and I haven't seen that video, but that sounds really funny. I'll have to check that out. Okay, next one comes to us from Alan Gonzalez, who writes, "I can't wait to watch Infinity War to talk about it on your show." Oh, me too, man. I cannot wait to see Infinity War. I am just about bouncing out of my seats. I'm so excited to see it. The trailer has done its job. It's made us all far more excited to see it than we even were before. Cannot wait for us to talk about it on the show. Taomis Yusuf writes, just maybe, critics label Infinity War a mess due to the huge cast. I just hope it's a beautiful mess to me. I'm ready to love the movie anyways. Well, look, critics aren't going to call it a mess unless it's actually a mess. Critics aren't going to call it a mess just because there's tons of characters. If the movie is a mess because of the tons of characters, then critics will call it as such. But critics aren't going to go into it and just call it a mess just because there's tons of characters. You can have tons of characters and still do it right. I mean, there's more characters than there were in Civil War, but Civil War had a ton of characters, and critics loved it. But if the Russo brothers make it a mess, then yes, the critics will call it a mess, and so they should. Let's see. IggyIsHorrible writes, "Thanos, maybe he's baited to the mind at Wakanda, while Tony attacks the ship, Hawkeye to find Cap Marvel, but Collector has reality gem he better hide." Okay, Iggy, I think I'm getting the idea. Thanos, maybe he baited to the mind at Wakanda while Tony attacks the ship. Hawkeye to find Cap Marvel, but Collector has reality. So you're clearly talking about Avengers Infinity War. I'm not really making heads or tails of what it is you're saying, Iggy. But, I mean, look. We know Thanos attacks Wakanda. Why? We're not 100% sure. We think it's because they're hiding Vision there. That's the operating assumption, is that he's attacking Wakanda because that's where Captain America and his team take Vision to hide him or protect him from Thanos. So that's the operating assumption. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. And yeah, the Collector's got to come into it at some point. Because we know, because of the post-credit scene in that Thor movie, that the Collector does have at least one of the Infinity Stones. So at some point, the Collector's got to come into it. All right. Luna Comics writes, I think Riddler should be the villain of the Batman movie. And it should be inspired by Prisoners, the movie, a kidnapping, and Batman have to use his detective skills to solve Riddler puzzles to find the missing kid. Thoughts? It's an idea. Look, here's the reality, Luna. We should never get into saying what a movie should be. This movie should be this, and it should have this story, and it should do this. We got to resist the temptation to do that. Let's see what their movie is. Could a movie like the one you're suggesting work? Yeah, in theory, that could work, but any movie could work. It's all dependent on how it's executed. You could make a movie about Batman finding Felipe the sentient dancing microphone. And if it's written right and paced right and executed right, it'll be brilliant. Certainly the scenario you're laying out, that could be brilliant. But there's 1,000 other stories that could also be brilliant. So I try to temper myself from getting into too much into this is what they have to do with this movie. No, let's let them decide what they need to do with it. I mean, I can talk about what I'd like to see. Like, I would love to see this, like going into The Last Jedi. I would love to see Luke Skywalker schooling some fools, Luke Skywalker taking out his lightsaber, taking out like 60 to 100 bad guys, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we can talk about what we'd like to see, but I try not to get too much into the discussions about this movie needs to be this, and it needs to do this, and it needs to do this. It's like, well, let's let the filmmakers decide that, about what it is they need to do and what it should be or shouldn't be. But certainly the scenario you're laying out, would that make for an interesting premise to a Batman film? Sure it would. Absolutely it would. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily what they should do for the next film, but the premise you're suggesting would make a great animated Batman, would make a good live action one. I mean, if done right, it could be very good. Jordan Frye writes, watched Sicario for the first time. Del Toro is a boss. Look, Josh Brolin was great in it. Emily Blunt was great in it. And certainly Benicio del Toro was fantastic in Sicario. They just put out a new trailer for Sicario 2. Gave away way too much. And I'm the guy who always says, stop saying it gave away too much. You don't know if it gave away a lot or not. You haven't seen the movie yet. But even I am going like, wow, man. They pretty much gave the whole movie away in this latest Sicario trailer. Like, the first trailer was great. And then they put out the second one. It's like, oh, you just revealed all the big plot points. Okay. That's cool. And I just think they made a big mistake with the last one. But yes, Benicio del Toro is a boss in it. Absolutely. Let's see. Nicholas Glenn writes, I'm going back through TIE Fighter on Steam with the updated graphics. Did you ever play X-Wing Alliance? And would you go back and play these games again? The attack on the second Death Star is awesome. You know what? I have not played the update. It was only about 4 or 5 months ago that I even found out that there was an updated version of them on Steam. I am definitely going to play those. I am definitely going to get those and probably waste hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and days and months and weeks of my life, because those are my favorite video games of all time. X-Wing and TIE Fighter, my favorite video games of all time. You're damn right I'm going to go back and play those again. Let's see. But I haven't done so yet, but I'm going to do that. Derek Large writes, thoughts on self-driving cars? Seems like a bad idea. Sorry, I had some almonds before I started. I got a little sliver of an almond right there. Thoughts on self-driving cars? Seems like a bad idea to me. To me, at this point anyway. No. Self-driving cars are a great idea. Studies have already shown that like accident rates are like some ridiculous number, like 20 times less with self-driving cars. With all the experimentation that like say Tesla did with their self-driving cars, They found there was one incident. I can't remember the exact numbers. You'd have to look them up. But I remember being floored by the numbers. It was one incident for every like 10,000 hours of driving, right? X number of incidents for every 10,000 hours of driving. Then they compared that to how many incidents there were for every 10,000 hours of average driving with regular human drivers. And it was something like 20 times more accidents. Like 20 times more. And again, I might be getting some of the numbers wrong, but I would just remember that it was some astronomical difference. Like we hear, did you hear there was a Tesla self-driving car and it hit a truck? There was an accident. Oh, self-driving is bad. Yeah. There was one. But in the same like 10,000 hours of driving, there was like 30 human-caused accidents. Anyway, the studies all point that self-driving cars are accidentally like massively more safe than anything else. So to me, it's the future. It's got to be, because it is proving to be by far the much safer way to handle it. So I am all for self-driving cars. I'm absolutely for it. Tinosvaldo writes, do you think Star Wars A New Hope would have done as well if story would have taken place with story from Phantom Menace? Darth Vader, not Vader yet. Kind of like Force Awakens is showing Kylo/Rey origins. No, it wouldn't have been, because Darth Vader, the greatest villain of all time, is one of the big reasons for the success of the original Star Wars. To start Star Wars without him, no, it would have been a totally different story. So, no, I don't believe at all that the original Star Wars would have been nearly as successful if they went with the story of the Phantom Menace. And Phantom Menace only had anybody interested in it because it was the story of young Darth Vader, who we already knew. Vader is the most celebrated villain in cinematic history. You do that movie without him, you take away half of the heart and soul of the movie, and no, it just doesn't do anywhere near as well. Let's see. Cap writes, what if Thanos gets the Soul Stone last and boom, Captain Marvel comes out of the Soul World? I'll be honest with you. I'm not familiar with what the Soul World is, to be honest with you. Maybe that's one of the things in the comics and I'm unfamiliar with it. I don't pretend to know every single thing in the comics, but I am not familiar with the Soul World. But either way, I don't think that's probably how it's going to go about. But who knows, man? It's just another theory. Maybe it does. Justin Singh writes, since Justice League was a financial disaster, do you think it's possible that Warner Brothers makes a Teen Titans movie before a Justice League 2 in order to bring in a new audience to the DCU? Okay, well, first of all, let's be very, very careful. Justice League was not a financial disaster. It didn't, it made money. It was any movie that breaks even or even makes a little bit of money is not a financial disaster. It made over $600 million. No, nobody cares about Teen Titans. That's why you're getting some piffy little stupid Teen Titans Go movie coming out that looks absolutely pathetic. It just looks terrible. Nobody cares about a Teen Titans movie. Nobody outside of people who follow the comic books cares. And look, it's just the reality. Look, I love Supernatural, but nobody cares to see a Supernatural movie. Other than the hardcore fans who already watch Supernatural, and we are a finite percentage. And you guys know I'm a huge Supernatural fan, but nobody wants to see a Supernatural movie. That would never fly. That would never make money. I just don't think, I don't think anybody cares to watch a Teen Titans movie. I'll be honest with you, I just don't. Just in the same way that I'm not putting down Supernatural. I love Supernatural, but nobody cares to see a Supernatural movie. And I'm not putting down Teen Titans, nor am I putting down anybody who likes Teen Titans. I'm just saying, the general movie-going audience is not looking for a Teen Titans movie. So I do not think it would bring in a new audience. I just wouldn't. So no, I can't see them doing that. Although there is a Teen Titans movie coming out, but it's that stupid animated one where the entire basis of the trailer is a big fart joke. I remember that trailer played in the theater I was in once, and I just buried my face in my hands. I was like, oh my God, this is so pathetic. So pathetic. Anyway, just my thoughts. Anyway, let's move on. Next one comes to us from Nicholas Acosta, who writes, will you do a review of The Director and the Jedi? That's the special feature that's on the Blu-ray for The Last Jedi, and I'm on it for all of like 5 seconds. But no, I probably won't be doing a review of that because it would only be applicable to people who have bought the Blu-ray of Star Wars The Last Jedi. So no, I probably won't do a review of it. But thank you for asking about that. I appreciate that. Okay, let's move on here. Adam K. writes, Where's Jason Segel? Haven't seen much of him. No kidding, man. Jason Segel is gold in comedies. I love Jason Segel in comedies, but he has basically disappeared. He's done a couple of little indie movies. I remember he did this one with Jesse Eisenberg a couple of years ago called End of the Tour, which was actually pretty good, where he plays like this author and Jesse Eisenberg's doing a story on him. And it's actually pretty good. But he has essentially disappeared, and he was like the hottest guy to appear. If you had a comedy, he was one of the first names you went to. And I don't know. The only thing I can think of is he did this horrible movie called Sex Tape with Cameron Diaz. And it's like the big lead blockbuster comedy kind of roles just stopped being offered to him after that. Or he decided to take a break. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that I love Jason Segel. I think he's a terrific performer. He brings a lot of joy to me when he's on the screen, and I hope he makes a comeback. I really do. But where he's been, I have no idea, or what caused him to go into kind of disappearing mode. I don't know. But it's a great question. I love that guy. Let's see. Derek Large writes, do you think Thanos will track down and kill the Collector looking for one of the Infinity Stones? Well, like I was mentioning a little bit earlier, at some point, we know that the Collector has one. So they have to explain that. At some point, Thanos has to address the Collector issue. Whether they address it by saying the Collector sold it off, or the Collector traded it, or something like that, and they got it some other way, or whether Thanos references the Collector and says, I went and got this from him, whatever. They've got to address it, because we know that he's got one. How do they deal with that? That we're just going to have to wait and find out from the movie. Zach93Z writes, Cap has a suit made of vibranium, holds Thanos' hand. Cap has a suit made of vibranium, holds Thanos' hand. I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say there, Zach. If what you're trying to say is that Cap's suit is made of vibranium, which I don't think it is, but if it was, and that's how he can hold off Thanos' hands, vibranium doesn't make you stronger. Vibranium is just a really tough metal. It's the toughest metal in the universe, but it doesn't make you strong. Like maybe if Cap's suit is made of vibranium, you could shoot him with a gun and it'll bounce off, but it doesn't mean Cap can curl any more weight. Vibranium doesn't work that way. It doesn't make you strong. Black Panther's vibranium outfit doesn't make him strong. It's the powers of the Black Panther that makes him strong. So I don't think that would be an explanation for how Captain can hold off Thanos' hand like that. Let's see. Lawrence RBE writes, how money do you see Black Panther ending with? How money? Are you asking how much money? How much money do you see Black Panther ending with? Also, if Avengers 3 doesn't outperform or come close to Black Panther, I think Avengers 3 will do more than Black Panther. Oh yeah, Avengers 3 will do more than Black Panther. And I mean, look, there are some people who still have a theory, and look, it's not a ridiculous theory to think that, hey, maybe Black Panther actually outperforms Avengers 3. But I think once Avengers 3 advanced ticket sales went on sale, and it outsold Black Panther's advanced ticket sales in 6 hours, it outpaced Black Panther. What the tickets Black Panther sold in 24 hours, Avengers Infinity War outsold in 6. I think that's probably a pretty good sign that we're going to see it outpace. I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to beat it by 3 times or anything like that. It's not going to hit. There are some people out there throwing around ridiculous numbers, like it's going to hit $3 billion. No, it's not. But I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say at this point it'll probably outperform. I think Black Panther is going to end between 1.3 and 1.4 billion. I think in Avengers Infinity War will come in around 1.8 or a little bit north. I keep adjusting my number a little bit. Today I feel like it's going to be around 1.8, maybe a little bit north. It might even join the $2 billion club. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, next one comes to us from Ben Heusa, who writes, still counting down. Awesome trailer. Yeah, counting down the days, man, to Avengers Infinity War. You and me both. And yes, the trailer was absolutely awesome. Jordan Benjamin writes, I'm not sure Loki's death would have massive impact going forward. Yes, Thor would be affected, but surely the Avengers all still despise him. Thoughts? It doesn't matter it doesn't matter what effect Loki's death has on Vision. It doesn't matter what effect Loki's death has on whatever. The thing is, for the audience, it has a big effect. Loki has been in many MCU films. He's been a central figure. He's been a beloved figure, both as a quasi-dark hero and as a villain. He's just huge. And the fact that his death would have such a massive impact. There's nobody else they could kill that would have a deeper impact on Thor. Nobody. I'm sure half of the MCU wouldn't care if Pepper dies, but there's nobody dying that would have a bigger impact on Tony than Pepper dying. There's nobody dying in the MCU other than Odin, who's already died, but there's nobody they could kill off in the MCU that would have a bigger impact, not Jane, not anybody, on Thor than Loki. And also understanding, the death of Loki, who's one of the gods of Asgard. I mean, his death could be incredibly profound in the way that it's a way to showcase the power and the ruthlessness of Thanos. It's going to have a massive impact on the audience. The question isn't what kind of impact does it have on the rest of the MCU? That's irrelevant. It's what kind of impact does it have on the audience? And I think the impact is going to be great, and it's going to have a massive impact on Thor himself. Especially if, as we're theorizing, that when Thanos has Thor's head, he's actually holding his head in place, making him watch Loki die. I mean, that's a huge thing. So yes, it will have a profound impact on the movie as a whole. I believe that the movie's going to start with this, and I believe you're going to feel the effects of that throughout the entire film. So I really, really believe that. Let's see. Corey Gaines writes, one of my Fab Cap America storylines, I think he meant fave, storylines is when he dies and the Winter Soldier takes up the Captain America persona. Do you think we will ever see that? I don't know. I really don't. Like, for instance, this Bucky Barnes, he's done a lot of bad stuff. A lot of bad stuff. And just recently, up until just the end credits of Black Panther, he's somebody that can still be controlled if you use the right trigger words with him. Is that somebody that everybody would then now all of a sudden out of nowhere just embrace as the new Captain America? The way they set it up in the movies? I don't know. It's possible. I don't want it, to be honest with you, and I have a hard time believing it. It just doesn't seem to make sense the way they've set up Bucky in this universe. He's not somebody that America can suddenly turn to and look at as the new Captain America with all the bad things he's done. And until recently was extremely compromised. Can you just suddenly now make that guy Captain America in your movie universe? I'm not so sure. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they play that out. I remember so many people were convinced that Captain America was going to die in Civil War and Bucky would be the new thing. And I kept telling people it's not going to happen. And sure enough, it didn't. But I mean, it's not to say that they won't do it at some point, but I think you have to build up a number of films where Bucky builds up and regains the trust of people, because it's still I still don't know how Tony's going to react around him. I mean, there's still that. He's still the dude who killed Tony's parents. So there's some big question marks still there. Santez Henderson writes, do you think there will be restrictions on Rian Johnson for his Star Wars trilogy due to how The Last Jedi was received? Not at all. A lot of people love that movie. But the most important thing here is Disney loved the movie. That's all that matters. That is all that matters to Disney. Disney loved the movie. Disney loved what Rian Johnson did with that movie. They loved the risks that he took. They loved the bold narrative that they told. Like, you know me, I've got my issues with the film, but it doesn't matter that I have issues with the film. The fact of the matter is, Disney loved the film. That's all that matters to them. And if they love the film, then they want Rian Johnson to keep going, doing his own thing. They're not going to let the reaction of some of the audience sway what they thought. They love it. We knew they loved it before the movie came out. I've talked to several people over at Disney. They love that movie. They love it. That's all they care about. And so they trust Rian Johnson completely to tell bold, great stories. Now, hopefully, his next one will gain wider appeal than The Last Jedi did, because there's a segment of the Star Wars population that didn't like the movie. That's great. There's a big segment of them that did love it. But there's certainly a segment that didn't as well. But again, the important thing here is it doesn't matter how many people loved it and how many people didn't. The only thing that matters here is that Disney loved it. Bob Iger loves that movie. Kathleen Kennedy loves the movie. Alan Horn loves that movie. I remember standing at the after party, and I was right beside Alan Horn was standing there with who's like, other than Bob Iger, Alan Horn's the top guy at Disney. And he was standing there with Adam Driver and Mark Hamill. And just hearing Horn gushing about the movie. And these are his underlings. He doesn't have to impress them. He just loved it. He was talking about how him and Bob were talking about it and just blah, 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 blah. They love that film. And so that, at the end of the day, is all that matters. So no, they're not going to put any restrictions on Rian Johnson because they think he's a genius. And there you go. Cody Kyrus writes, why did Thanos hand Loki an Infinity Stone? Something he is so obsessed with possessing. Because he knew that Earth was going to be a key to other Infinity Stones. That's why he wanted Loki to go and subdue Earth and take it over. Remember, that was the whole point. Loki was supposed to take over Earth. That was it. So Thanos put a powerful weapon in Loki's hand. Loki was supposed to be Thanos' puppet. He says, go take over the world. Because apparently Thanos understood that the Earth was going to be key to getting some other Infinity Stones. So he sent Loki to Earth, and that's why he did it. It wasn't meant to be permanent. It wasn't meant to be permanently Loki's. That was only a temporary thing here. He put the scepter in his hand. You go take over the world. And then, of course, everything kind of went haywire, which is probably another reason why Thanos is not just to bother Thor. Thanos probably wants to kill Loki for several different reasons. All right, see, next one comes to us from Edgar Navarro, who writes, did you see Cap's eyes as he held Thanos' hand with the gauntlet? It looked like it was turning gold yellow. Does he have the Soul Stone? I don't think so. And any kind of reflection in his eyes, I think was just reflection of the gold glove. The glove is gold. So I'm not reading into that, Edgar. I don't think that's the case. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Right? I mean, we need a hell of an explanation as to how Cap can hold off Thanos' hand like that, but nobody's supposed to be able to hold an Infinity Stone or possess it. And the only reason Star-Lord was able to for a little while is because he is half celestial. So I don't know. I mean, it's not the wackiest theory. I don't think that's it. And I think if you did see any yellow glow in his eyes, that's just a reflection of the glove, I think. But who knows, man? We've heard crazier theories that could be valid. Jonathan Ziniga writes, who are some of your favorite YouTube critics? Nope. Not going to answer that. Because I know a lot of them. And I've been asked that question several times before. And I've given answers several times before. And upon giving answers, I inevitably later got hit up by saying, hey man, like, why didn't you mention me? By somebody else who is a YouTuber that I just didn't mention. Because I know a lot of people on YouTube, whether I know them real personally or know them just friendly over email a little bit. I know an awful lot of YouTube critics. And the last time I answered that question, I got confronted by somebody saying, hey, what problem do you have with me? Why didn't I like it? Why don't you like me? Why didn't you mention me? So it's like, you know what? Nope, not going to answer that question anymore. But thanks for asking, man. Hardboiled Entertainment writes, think New Gods being quote-unquote separate just means it won't involve Earth, Superman, Batman, etc. Like the MCU's cosmic universe, Guardians, etc. No, I don't think so. I think the fact that Warner Brothers has already said they're going to start exploring doing things not connected to the DCEU. The fact that they're already moving forward with this Martin Scorsese-produced Joker movie that they've vehemently said is not connected to the DCEU whatsoever. It's a separate thing. If it wasn't for the fact that Warner Brothers has already outright stated, we're going to make some films that are completely separate, then I would wonder about it. But the fact that Warner Brothers has already kind of made it plain that we're going to explore these other things too, and the fact that they're already got the ball rolling on this Joker movie that's going to be completely in a different universe than the DCEU, it makes it completely understandable that they're going to do it. So no, I don't think that this New Gods thing is going to be connected to the DCEU whatsoever. Could be wrong about that. Could be, but right now, just the information we have in front of us seems to all point towards probably not connected. And that might be a good thing. Like, everybody's getting upset, like maybe that's a bad, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe they got this great idea for a New Gods movie, but they're like, but this doesn't fit in at all with the DCU. Whatever, man. It's a great idea for a movie. Let's just do it in its own universe then. It's not connected to the DCU. Maybe it's a great thing. So let's just keep that in mind too. Let's see. John Hine writes, just watched the RoboCop trilogy. Oh my God. Had a ton of fun getting stoned and watching them. Any similar content I can watch next? Well, man, I am not a fan of RoboCop after RoboCop 1. I thought the first RoboCop is bloody brilliant. It's classic. I wasn't a big fan of the stuff that came afterwards. And I even like the RoboCop reboot. I do. It wasn't as good as the original, but I like the RoboCop reboot. I thought it was pretty good. Another thing like it, Okay, here's one. Watch Highlander 1, 2, and 3. The first one, all-time great classic. The next two, garbage. But if you're getting stoned to watch them, you might find them pretty enjoyable. So try those ones. Highlander 1, 2, and 3. All right. Holy Jeebus Rice. Thought people understood that. You know what, dude? I can't do it. I can't read an email written that way. I'm sorry. I apologize for that, man. But please write English. You clearly speak English. Please write English. I can't sit here for 5 minutes trying to interpret the email. Sorry about that, dude. Troy Taylor writes, ever see Spielberg's Falling Skies? I loved it when it was first airing, but at the end felt rushed. Also, where are you in Hulk? Well, you can. Somebody else wrote in the other day on the show saying they saw me in Hulk. You'll have to find it for yourself. But yeah, I watched a few episodes of Falling Skies, and I gotta tell you, I never got into it. It didn't quite do it for me. I wanted to like, because it's sci-fi and it's aliens invading Earth, and I even like the cast, but I watched a few episodes and I kind of ditched it. It wasn't doing it for me at all. So I didn't even get to the end to see if it was getting rushed or not. It just never really worked for me. Ra Palacio writes, theory is Hulk may be in the Hulkbuster. Well, we kind of know that that's not the case now. Anyway, why would the Hulk need that? Let's see. Why would the Hulk need that? Could it be while on the Asgardian ship, he was hurt by Thanos? Banner looks scarred in that whole Strange's place. Well, I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that it's not Hulk in the armor. And there's a number of things online, including toy reveals and things like that, that all kind of, and things in the trailer. If you look at the trailer, it kind of makes it obvious that Hulk's not in the armor. So I don't think Hulk's in the armor. So that answers that question. Hulk doesn't need armor. So there you go. And as far as he definitely, I believe Hulk definitely gets hurt by Thanos and gets his ass kicked by Thanos, and that's how he ends up back on Earth. So I believe that too. But no, I don't think it's Hulk in that armor. Twitty Britty writes, does Thanos love Hela? If so, will she return? I don't think so. I think while she is the goddess of death, I think they're keeping that separate. Look, they've already kind of made it clear that Thanos has different motivations. He's not just trying to impress Lady Death like he was in the comics in different places. It seems like he has a different idea. He wants to bring balance to the universe, which he sees himself as a hero in many ways, which makes him all the more terrifying. So no, I don't think he's invited with Hela, and I don't think Hela's going to be returning. JB1411 writes, what do you think the odds are Thanos gets all the stones, snaps his fingers, and the cliffhanger leading into Avengers 4 is who died and who survived? Don't think so. And somebody else wrote that almost not quite identical, but almost identical to that. What if the movie ends with Thanos gets all the stones, snaps his fingers? I don't think he gets all the stones. Whether he dies and doesn't get all the stones, or whether he's just not done yet and doesn't get all the stones. I'm suspecting he doesn't get all the stones, but I'm pretty confident it doesn't end like that. I've talked about before, in a movie like this, you need some kind of win for the heroes. Not the ultimate win. You don't have to have the ultimate win, but some kind of win for the heroes, even if the villain still has the big upper hand. I harken back to Empire Strikes Back, right? The Empire won Empire Strikes Back, but the movie ends with a small win for the good guys. Luke and Leia and Lando and Chewie escape Cloud City despite the fact that the Empire was after them. Vader almost got them back, wanted the tractor beam, locked on them because he wanted to get Luke back and all that kind of stuff, but the tractor beam got deactivated. They were able to their hyperspace was supposed to be deactivated, but they were able to have it fixed, and boom, they took out, they get away. Yay, there's a win. I think Infinity War has to end with some kind of small win for the good guys. I don't think it ends on a depressing snap, half the universe is dead. I don't think it ends on that note. I could be wrong, totally, but I think the best way for them to handle this is to handle it where it ends with there's still terrible, terrible things happening and we're in a bad place, but we accomplished this. And there's some small victory there. I think that's the way they've got to transition. Let's see. ToonieTube writes, so I'm a fan of Olivia Cooke. So good in Limehouse, Gollum, so great in The Quiet Ones. You know what? Olivia Cooke, she's a sweetheart. I've had her in my studio before. I remember I sat down with The Quiet Ones, and I had Olivia Cooke, Sam Claflin, and Jared Harris, the three main stars of The Quiet Ones, in my studio and talked to them. But here's the thing about Olivia Cooke. While she was really sweet, she was so quiet. So quiet. She wasn't being a jerk or anything like that. I think she's just naturally really, really quiet. And so you could tell when I was interviewing the three of them, Sam Claflin and Jared Harris were doing their best to compensate. Like, so Olivia, like I'd ask her, blah, blah, blah. Well, I kind of think this and this and this. And then Jared Harris was kind of, well, there's this and la la la, and Sam Claflin. So they were doing what they could to compensate for her. Again, she was totally sweet. I just think she was like really just naturally very quiet. So yeah, and of course I believe she's in Ready Player One, right? So we get to see her in that here pretty soon. So that's good. Let's see. This next one comes from U815 writes, does Adam Warlock have the last Infinity Stone? I doubt it. I think we already heard that Adam Warlock's not going to be a part of this, so I think that's probably no. Matthew Cabrera writes, what are your thoughts about Shutter Island? It's my favorite movie. Oh, yeah, really good movie. Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio. It's also a really conceptual kind of movie that I think some people just didn't know how to take it. I thought it was really good. I mean, it's not anywhere near my favorite movie or anything like that, but it's a really solid movie. And there are things they tried and did in it that have been done before. They just did it in a different way. And they've tried some things in that movie that I've never seen tried before in a movie. And it really relies on a great performance as well. Great directing. It's a solid movie, man. If you haven't checked out Shutter Island, give it a look. I mean, the ads for it were really trippy and it turned some people off, but I think if you can get through it, I think you're going to really enjoy that you did. Ovidius1979 writes, have a 6-year-old son and still manage to go to the movie theater 55 times during 2017. Good on you, man. That's great. Just wondering, how many times do you visit a movie theater in a year? I don't know. I think this past year, probably, in the neighborhood of, I'm in probably a movie theater in the neighborhood of 3 times a week. So I'm going to go, probably just north of 150, somewhere a little bit north of 150 probably. It also really helps that I've got a movie theater like literally a 12-minute walk up the street from where I live. So that really helps. Wayne, and first, as a dad, how do you get the time to go? I'm sure you probably take your kid with you to a lot of those things too, but good on you for being able to find the time for yourself to do that, man. Ovidius1979 writes, oh, that was you, sorry. Wayne Clark writes, your Dom Toretto rant was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Keep rocking, man. Yeah, we talked on the show the other day about Dom Toretto, about how the fact that in the Fast and Furious movies, one of the things that really drives me nuts is the fact that he is the toughest man in the universe. And I went off on that for a while. So maybe you can go back to one of the other videos and find that. I can't even remember which video I did it on. But yeah, that was fun. Thunder Knight 19 writes, if there's a scene between Robert Downey Jr., Benedict Cumberbatch, and Martin Freeman in Infinity War, should there be a Sherlock Holmes reference made there? Look, I would get a kick out of it if they did, but that's a little more slapstick comedy. That's something like they would do on Legends of Tomorrow, because it would totally fit that. But because we hear people on Legends of Tomorrow constantly making jokes and referencing other things they've been in before. But I don't think there's a place for that in Infinity War. I don't think that's the movie for it. If they did it, I would probably get a big kick out of it. But if they did, they would probably do it so subtle, most people wouldn't even catch it. But I don't think they will. I really don't think they will, although I will get a kick out of it if they do. And now the final question today comes to us from Phil Lee, who writes, Russo brother confirms Black Sabbath on Infinity War soundtrack with a follow-up to their hit song Iron Man, Iron Spider. Again, you guys are just never going to let me go on this Iron Spider thing, are you? I'm just going to get crap from you guys forever, and maybe, well, what deserved. Well played, Phil. Well played. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, click that subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on social media, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.